So here we are again, episode 5 or maybe 4, I don't know that. That is to be decided in the future.
Okay, how many fingers am I holding up?
7.
Aha!
By my son, the editor. We are doing shocks in this episode, but first we'll bring you up to date with the little changes we made on the chassis in the meantime. What did we do? Well, I said we were going to fiddle with the front links a little bit more, and so we did. We sourced a little bit longer upper links. We fiddled a bit with rod ends, and also on the bottom we had to change the link of the length of the link. So now we are at 85 on the bottom, and the uppers are 80 millimeters long, 80 and 85. But we also changed something else. Maybe you can see it through here, the skid plate. We already went to a few iterations of that skid plate. We first started at this one, the links all the way on the side, and that worked because the original design had an axle where the front lowers were rather close to the pumpkin, and that was on a center pumpkin axle. But now we have a offset pumpkin axle. The links are a little bit wider, so this design didn't work that much anymore on this axle. So we went to the next iteration. We shifted the mounting positions from the links on the skid plate a little bit to the center, and it worked pretty well on this one. But then maybe you noticed the last time we had some play in the axle. I could really move it left to right. We did a lot of we changed a lot of balls in the rod ends. That made a huge difference, but I just wanted to have more triangulation, so we even shifted more inside. So now we have a skid which has the links even more inside. I can maybe show you. So we have another now 5 millimeters left, maybe even more, 5-6 millimeters left and 5-6 millimeters right. But I'm really happy with this new design, and for all those who have this chassis and print their own STL files, they can just get any update we make on the files. We can just mail them to you, and you can print the new designs. You can see the links are really nice in there. We had to make this one and this one 2 millimeters longer, so we will remake them. These are just test links, that doesn't really matter, but they really are nice in here. And the best part for me is that this all helps to slide over rocks. Maybe I can show it on this camera, or maybe I have to keep it like this because the light will be better this way. As you can see, that really is a flat, nice and flat surface. So I'm really happy with changing this skid plate. This one will stay in there, I think. What else did we do? There was the servo. I have a servo. It's gonna be the Yantris 50 kg. Servo is mount is in here. We can fiddle the servo in here. You see it like this. Sits in here real nice. I will show you what the clearance is on the bottom. So that's really is a lot of clearance with a low profile servo. I think completely out we still are above the links. This is a build, if we use spacers, I can even use a full height servo. And also when we might show it to this camera, when we collapse completely, we are not touching anything. So at the moment I think I'm happy with the changes I made. It's always a little bit fiddling with the geometry until you get it nice and straight and right. I'm happy with the pumpkin angles, which sit really nice. The rear one also on full extraction. I lengthen these ones a few millimeters, or I shift them a hole so it clocks a little bit more up. Might do that. Not sure. It's not really necessary, but looks better. And on the front axle we still have a nice amount of caster, so I'm also really happy with that one. All the little changes that were made in the meantime, just to keep you up to date. But today we are here for the shocks. I will unmount one of the shocks because it's actually 4 times the same process, so I'm not gonna take you to all 4. We will do one. Okay, shocks. These are really nice shocks. The housing is great, the shaft is good, the rod ends, the balls, everything is actually really good. The cap also really good. So all these basic components are okay. The color is not exactly matching, but yeah, you can't expect too much for the price what these cost. I think you get a pair of these for €10.
China, 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 China. I have to have my China. China, China, because China, 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 China.
So 2 sets is €20 for 4 shocks. That's not too bad. What needs to be replaced, the springs are too heavy, and I thought the ones that were extra were softer, but they are actually firmer. I will measure them, what they are in pounds per inch. They are, the wire is 0.8 millimeters, and the wires on the one that are on stock is like 0.7, yeah, 0.7 millimeters. So they are actually the soft ones on here, which is still too firm. Now there's a few tools you will need. There's always this shock pliers. These springs have an E-clip to keep the seal package in here. There's a number of ways to get the E-clip off. The easiest way is with one of these pliers, which is a channel lock 926. They are not cheap, but they work really great, and they have a double function. So now they work this way, and now they work the other way, so double use. They cost something. They come with a number of tips to put on there, and yeah, these work really great. So you need these, you need these. Very important, get yourself a roll of this paper, and then for the finishing touch there's also the kitchen towel, the paper kitchen towels. So that's what you need. What else do we need? You can clean things up with acetone, but I actually like to use ethanol, pure ethanol, which is really good for cleaning everything up, because this needs to be cleaned up. I don't know what's inside, but we don't want to mix mineral oil with silicone oil, so cleaning really needs to be done. Let's take one apart and see what's inside. So I already can see, you can see it, there's oil here, so they are leaking. There was a little bit of oil in there. Watch out, or this one flies away. Here's the cup, the spring. Can we feel the difference? Yeah, the soft ones are on there, but doesn't matter, we use other ones. Let me get one of these. You want to make everything clean. This cup also clean. Okay, let's take it, let's open it up. And there is, yes indeed, some oil in there, just a little bit. Let's see how much oil did we get. Not much. We will remove the E-clip with our channel lock. Pliers, as you can see, that goes really easy. Clean this one as well. Be careful when you work with these, because if they spring off, you will never find it again. Well, that's not really that's not really a piston as you want one, but no worries, we will change everything. There's a just a metal spacer in here. We will not be using that one again. Then there is the shaft. It has something on there, but I will get it off and I will show you what needs to be on there. Are way too big for this this kind of little fiddling. This thing, what's supposed to be a piston, we will not be using that. You can just throw it away, throw it in the bin. You'll never use it. Now let's clean a few things up. The shaft. It doesn't matter that there's oil on the shaft, but you want the right oil on the shaft. So we do this away. Then in the cap there's a bladder. We will not be using that bladder, just take it out. That's not really a bladder, that's almost a flat piece of rubber. It's not used in this one, maybe in another shock, I don't know. I keep those in a bin, you never know what they can be used for. Let's clean everything out. So most of the oil is out. One more time. Okay, nice and clean. We need to clean the outside. The cup is really clean. It's just there was oil on the bladder, but this cup is really clean. So that's a bonus. You should not lose this one, this little E-clip. There's the shaft. There's the body. Now we take out what's inside of here. This packaging. There's some kind of white spacer. We have 2 orange O-rings, and that's all there's in there. You can use the O-rings for something else. We will not use them in here. So O-rings out of the way. We will clean that thoroughly later. I'm not going to do away this spacer. I'm not sure if I will be using it again or not. Now we take some ethanol, put it on the paper towel. Clean it all off. Clean my hands. Go inside with the ethanol, so everything is nice and clean. Okay, shiny. Let's go down in the bottom. Yep, everything is nice and clean. This one, the top rod end is fixed with a Phillips screw. Let me just feel if that is really tight. Yep, that's really tight, so no worries there. Okay, there's a couple of things we need now. We will rebuild the shock, and I will walk you through the process. In these shocks, we call them fake DravTechs. This is what you need to make them a really good shock. It's from Traxxas. You need 2 packs. You need the pistons. You see they look really different compared to the one that came out. And then we have seals. We have these X-rings, and that's all. There's even E-clips in there. Everything you need is in these packages. Yeah, we still need to cut them open. Okay, there's the scissors. The bin. In the bin. That's all. Now, we have 4 shocks. We have 2 pistons with 3 holes. They are nice and clean. If this is not clean, you just cut it off so it doesn't rub against the wall. We have 2 of these, and then we have 2 with 2 holes. Now we can adjust these 3 holes, the complete surface of the diameters of these holes. That's yeah, that's more than these 2. But if we go with a 1.5mm drill through these ones, then the surface of these 2 is the same as from these 3. So that's what we will do. I usually put the 2 holes which I drilled out in the rear, and the ones with the 3 holes I use in the front. We are doing a shock, so just so I don't need to go and drill right now, we will say this is a front shock, so we use the 3-hole piston. What's in this bag? There's a manual to help you build this package down here. What's on the rear? That's the top. We need this one. How do we build it? Well, we will see what works best to get in here, because we want the oil to stay in, but we also don't want too much friction so the shock does not work anymore. We have a bladder in here. We have some X-rings. We have E-clips. We have everything we need for 2 shocks, so you will need 2 of these, the number 2362. You will need 2 of these to fix your shocks. You will say, yeah, now you have to buy these packages. I think they cost about 10 euros and the shocks are 20 euros, so altogether you get yourself a set of nice shocks for 30 euros. We need a bladder. We need X-rings. I don't know how well this shows, but it's like a little X inside here. I don't know if this camera picks it up or not. We need 2 of these. There's a spacer in between. I think we can fit that one in. Actually, this one should be in there, but I have another use for this one, which I will tell you later. I'll put it on the side so I don't forget it. I think that's all we need from this packaging. Watch out, because things are jumping away. This one will be the closing one. Yep. So, to help to keep the oil inside, we have this green slime.
Can't make the scene if you don't have the green.
If you do that on the O-rings or X-rings in our case, that helps to keep the oil inside, and it is really green slime. So you can take a pair of tweezers, rub them through like this. Okay, put it in here. That's one. Then I take one of these spacers. Yep, I think that one fits in here. Take another one. Also a little bit of the green slime on there. You really don't want it on your hands. Put this one in here. Okay, it's in. take this top one, put it on there, and now it's just a matter of getting the E-clip in there. That's not really an easy thing to do, so I will be silent for a moment and try to get the E-clip in there. Well, there is one with a Traxxas pack, so let's see if we can fiddle this one in. Now, before I forget, it's not a bad idea to put the shaft in here first, so there's no pressure on the sealing package, and thus these sharp edges from the threads don't damage the seals from the first go. So what we will do, we will use, that's the piston on there, and then we have this little boy, E-clip. That's also a nice one to get back on. I hope it doesn't jump away. And my little Tamiya tool still works. So that's the piston, 3 holes, no sharp edges on the side. We push this through here. Okay, so there was no pressure and no damage done. Well, let me see if I get this one done. I hope it doesn't fly away. Well, I do have a few spare ones now. This is not always an easy job. I'm not sure if it's in yet. Yeah, it clicked in. So is it completely in? Let me check. Yeah, it's completely in. And now this one goes really smooth. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Now it actually went in maybe a little bit too smooth. I don't know. How does it feel? No, this is way better. There's a little wiggle on the shaft all the way down, but here and here, no. This feels really good. Is there? I think it's the perfect pressure on here. So I did manage to get some green slime on my fingers. Okay. Next thing to be done is to fill this with oil. We have a bladder chuck, so it needs to be completely filled with oil under the bladder, and you see this bladder from the Traxxas pack fits just perfect in here. What else can I tell? This white one, spacer, which I said I was not going to use and I had something to say about, I'm using this under here. And what does it do? It prevents the shaft to go in completely, and that is actually something like this, because otherwise if it can go in completely it will damage the bladder, and we don't want that. So this one prevents the bladder from being damaged, because we can push it in further and then it will actually really damage the bladder. So this spacer, actually these shafts are like 2 or 3 millimeters too long, but this is a way to prevent them from damaging the bladder. Yeah, we need oil. There's a variety of oils. There's this one comes with Element Builder's Kit. It's 300 CST, but I'm usually using 400 CST, which I still have from the silicone oil from my Tamiya days, and I've filled a few of these shocks with them, and the oil is works still really good. So I start with 400 front and rear, and we see where we end up. It's a good thing to push the shaft up a little bit and then fill it with oil. And then we do the shaft down. Oil is really nice down there. Fill it all up. Can move the shaft a couple of times. So the air comes up. I don't know if you can see it. Air comes all up. You can quicken up this process by using vacuum. We just use this one. Now I'm not sure if the 400 oil is not going to be too much. Maybe for the front, I think this will be over damped, but I don't know yet. But maybe with a spring on there, we can always we could do one and then we go down to a lower oil. Now, if you do 4 shocks, you can just put them in this shock stand, really nice shock stand. You can see who I got it from, and then just put the oil down there, let it rest until all the bubbles are out, and then we continue.
1 day later.
Okay, a little bit of time passed since the split second ago, which was for you like 1 second, was for me like almost a day. That is mainly because I was not happy with how the shocks are at the moment. This is the first one I filled, but the shaft is still moving a little bit too much, and then I found out I was doing something wrong. I missed one of these rings in the seal pack. So it's one of this, then one of the X ones, again this one of the X ones, and the one that comes out of the shock, the original one, and then we use the clip not from the original ones, but we use the clip from the Traxxas pack. So we will mount one now. I already did one. This one is already done that way, and we have actually 3 more to go, but I will take you on the process in this one so you can see how it's supposed to be. Just one little thing. Here is one of the pistons from Traxxas with the 3 holes in there, which fits really nice in here, and this is what we got from in the fake drafts. So you can see the difference, I think. I don't know what this is supposed to be. This is the one we want. Underneath that shaft, on the inside, is a rubber O-ring which prevents the shaft from going all the way down. So we always have a little bit of oil under the shaft. That's really important. And on the outside, as I said before, you have this spacer which prevents the shock from going all the way in, so we don't touch the bladder. And well, actually it is a 95mm shock, but with limiting it down travel with this rubber seal and limiting the up travel with this plastic spacer, we actually subtract 4mm from the shock, so we are left with around a 90mm shock. I hope that makes sense to all of you. So we start with one of the plastic ones first. That's really important, because the plastic ones in here, they will prevent the shaft from moving too much. Where are my glasses? Okay, so again the green slime, that's really important. Yep, not too much, not too little. GoPro start recording. So the first one is in here, then we take another of these spacers, the next X-ring, next one in here, then we place the original plastic seal on top of it. Okay, let's clean my tweezers off. Close this one. This is a 4cc cup. It will last all my life. You just need so little of it. Then don't forget, before we put the E-clip on there and put pressure on the seal pack, we first shove the shaft through there, and then our channel lock clippers. Now this one is not so easy. There is a little pressure on here, but I think I got it first time. Let me check if it's all in. Yeah, it's all in. And now if we now move the shaft, that feels really nice, and there's no play in the shaft anymore. So yeah, my mistake for the first one. Maybe the editor leaves the first one out, then so you see exactly what is the correct order. So a plastic one, an X-ring, a plastic one, an X-ring, the plastic seal that was on there originally, and then the E-clip from Traxxas. That's how we built the shock, and now it's really, yeah, it feels so smooth. Yeah, okay. So we will put some oil in there. We are going for the 300 CST oil, halfway up. Okay, fill the rest up, and we will leave it like this for a while, so all the bubbles can get out. Okay, it might be a little bit too much, but we will show you later how to do this. I will now first bring all 4 of these shocks as they should be, and then we will meet again.
2 days later.
So here we are again. They're all filled, the shocks. The air is almost all out of there. The Traxxas pack with pistons is perfect for these shocks. Now I just measured the inside of the shock, which is 10.2 millimeters, and the Traxxas pistons are just under 10, so they have 1/10 of a millimeter all around in freedom. Now if you ever had Tamiya, I guess you will have a lot of these ones laying around, and because these are Tamiya ones, Tamiya pistons, and as you can see they are like 9.9 almost, so that's almost exactly the same as the Traxxas one. So you can reuse these Tamiya pistons. You will need to drill a second hole in there, because I think this is a 0.1 millimeter hole. Oh wait, drill. I'm needing 1.5. No, it's not a 1.5 millimeter hole. It's really close. But with this drill, if you drill 2 holes in there, 1.5 millimeter drill. Let me check if that's correct. Yeah, that's a 1.5 millimeter drill. If you drill 2 holes in Tamiya pistons, you're also set for these shocks. Okay, so let's finish one up and see how we do that. Another piece of paper towel. Okay, let me see which one doesn't have any bubbles in him anymore. No, this one is bubble free. It is filled up with oil just until the color of this one. So there's 2 options. You put the bladder on here and then you screw the cap on. The other option is you put the bladder in the cup and then you screw the whole part on there. I'm using this method, so I'm sure everything is filled with oil. Let me check if it's completely wet. Yeah, it's completely. So there's enough oil in there. Yep, perfect. And we screw the cap on. A little bit of oil is going to escape. Just tighten it up by hand. Clean up the oil. And now you have a bladder chock, which works really, that's really nice. There is as good as no play in the shaft, so this is really perfect. We have the shock now. We will put on this ring, which prevents the complete travel of the shock and then hitting the bladder. We will need some springs now. Let me check. Where are our boxes? I don't think we have too much sprung weight. It's gonna be mainly unsprung weight. So the lightest one was 0.7 from the Chef fake DravTech shocks, and these are, yeah, they are 40 millimeter. We have, let me count that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 coils. If I take a 0.7 in 4 millimeter, I have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coils. We still have 40 millimeter. Let me feel. That's about the same. That's about the same. Let me start with a 60 millimeter one. With a 0.6 one. Now there's way more coils on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is going to behave way different than the other one. I do have a 35 on here, 35 millimeter one. Let me just put one on here. I'm going to take 0.6 in a 35 millimeter length and see what that does. Put the cap on here, and then we need our shock pliers again. Watch out it doesn't shoot all over your workplace. Thread this one on here until we see no more threads. Okay, so now we have one rear shock, because this was a rear shock, and now this feels completely different than what we had before. This is a shock, and the 300 CST feels about right. Yeah, and I think this spring also feels about right. Maybe even a little too much for a rear shock. However, I am not using it vertically, but I'm using it like this, so we might actually be on something. I have a lot of springs over here. I need to really write down what I'm doing, so I will be using a piece of paper tape, stick it on here, put on an R for rear, and I will write down which spring I'm using. As you can see, it's really loose at the moment. There's no, then here it starts working. I want to be the shock at right height, something like this, so we have a little bit to compress but a lot to extract, so that would be a perfect right height. So one done, that's nice. I will do the other three and then I will come back. So I come back real quick. We decided to change the springs on the rear from the 35 millimeter long ones to the 40 millimeter long ones, but we kept a 0.6 wire diameter. Now this is what the shock tool is for, so you can see that the springs are exactly the same length. It's at 0, so that's okay. But the shock tool also tells you something else, and that is when you completely press the shocks and you release them, you can see if they travel both at the same speed. When the needle shifts over to the right hand side, well, let's keep it like this. When it goes to the right hand side, that means that this shock is actually traveling faster than this one, and in this case, let us see, I hope the GoPro picks it up. You can see it goes like 1 or 2 millimeters to the right. Eventually they end up at exactly 0 again, so this means that this shock is traveling just the slightest bit faster than the other one. Now the seal packs are supposed to be the same, the springs are supposed to be the same. Maybe there's a little bit more tension on one seal pack than on the other one. The shafts felt both smooth, so I cannot exactly tell you what the problem is, but it's not a big problem. They almost travel at the same speed. So I'm happy with these two shocks for the rear, and now we will see if we can find some spring rates which is okay for the front one. I will mount the front, find some springs, and I'll come back. I almost forgot to tell you, you can also see what the shock length is. Of course, we have 93 millimeters at this moment, and when fully compressed we are at 73. So this shock has a 20 millimeter travel at this moment. 93 to 73, 20 millimeters travel. So the shocks are ready. Let's clean the workbench a little bit, and we will now mount the shocks and see where we end up. Okay, so the shocks are mounted. There's a little band around the gearbox to keep it sort of less in its place. Now let me see, what do we have now? Yeah, this is something different now. Yeah, these are how shocks are supposed to feel. So we will find out together if this is okay. We of course don't have the weight of the wheel, but we ended up using a 0.6 millimeter wire in the rear, 40 millimeters long. The travel is 20 millimeter. Yep, and the front ones are exactly the same. So they are 93, and completely compressed they are 73. This is a 0.7 millimeter wire, but they are only 35 millimeter long, which means they are completely out. There's no spring rate over here anymore. They are loose. So I like it, and I think they will sit with a correct weight on it. This might be really close. Damping seems to be okay. Spring rate also. We can, before we start throwing other springs on here, we still have a few positions to play on. If we put it straighter up, the shock straighter up, the spring rate goes up. If the ride height is not okay, we can go to the top row. So there's a lot of options in the rear, and there's also enough options in the front, as at the moment this one sits exactly straight in the middle of the front. So I think for the shock episode I will close this one over here. I need to think, what was the next episode? Oh yeah, next episode is electronics. That might be part 2 of this video, or that might be the next one. But this one was about how do I get decent shocks on here which don't cost too much. We chose the fake DravTechs, and this is the way you make them like a real decent shock. For this price I don't think they can be beaten. So maybe we meet again in a few seconds for electronics, or maybe we see each other in the next video. Bye for now.